Welcome to the SAICA Biz Impact Podcast, your ultimate business growth platform, where we simplify complex business topics with expert insights, market-relevant trends, and practical advice, all aimed at keeping you ahead of the curve.
Welcome to another SAICA Biz Impact Podcast show. I am your host, Luncedo Mthwendwe. This is your home where we unpack and simplify some of the business topics that become so complex on your day-to-day basis. And we will be bringing you a number of experts that are going to share their experiences around some of the business trends, the topics that are out there in the market or in the media or in the news. And we try to simplify them for you to ensure that you get value out of the podcast and you're able to stay ahead of your business game. And today we have a special guest that will be unpacking some of the growth strategies around the BE space. We know that it is a topic that has been around in South Africa for quite some time, and most of the businesses still don't understand the role that it plays, the value that it adds, and how can you grow, implementing and really working along with the BE space. And I have Priscilla Ramphal from Triaa BBBEE Verification Agency. Priscilla, welcome on board.
Thank you.
Yeah, I know that you are based quite a lot in Durban and you move around. And I think for the year 2023, 2024, we're going to try to move you to be in Joburg. Can you take that task for us?
I'm going to try.
No, that's great. Priscilla, BE has been around in South Africa for years, and it is a topic that becomes sensitive to other people. Some have gained, some have lost as a result of the policy that government has implemented. And some other people still don't understand what is BE in layman's terms. Why is it there? What is it trying to achieve? Can you unpack that for us?
Yes. So basically, broad-based Black economic empowerment is all about redressing the imbalances of the past.
Yeah.
So it's all about bringing in Black people back into the mainstream economy of South Africa.
Yeah.
So previously, there were a lot of imbalances in terms of skills development for Black people. Remember, Black people in terms of the BE codes includes your African, Indian, and colored people. So the whole scorecard and the whole BE, from a BE perspective, it's all about bringing back Black people into our mainstream economy. And the scorecard does that by looking at all of the elements. So we look at ownership, we look at management control, skills development, enterprise development, procurement, supply development, and socioeconomic development. And the way the scorecard works is that you would use each element and you award points, and that's how you basically come to a BE score for a company.
Yeah.
So that's what it's about.
When you were explaining that part about what BE is about, you touched about redressing the imbalances of this country. And the policy has been in place for a number of years.
Correct.
2023, 2024, is the policy still relevant, and has it achieved what it wanted to achieve?
I think that economic transformation has not taken place at a pace that we would all want it to take place at. However, it has achieved a lot. For example, in terms of skills development, we now have a lot of big businesses whereby they're bringing in unemployed people into their businesses, they're putting them onto learnerships, they're upskilling them. Unfortunately, BE is not a tick box exercise. And if companies are going to see it as a tick box exercise, we're never going to redress the imbalances of the past. It has to be done with some kind of passion, some kind of planning as to how we're going to go about it. And I think if all companies do this correctly and they all head in the right direction, we will make a change and we will bring differences in our country. There will be an economic impact to South Africa.
Yeah. So what will happen in, let's say next year, 2024, and there is a change of guard. Let's just happen due to elections. Is the BEE policy still going to be in place for the next 5, 10, 15 years in South Africa? Or else it is the policy that is just being implemented by the current government?
Personally, I believe that BEE will continue. Okay. So last year on the 4th of November, there was a big hoo-ha in the market that there's no more BEE.
Yes.
And you know, all the companies were calling me and saying, oh, we don't have to do BEE certificates anymore.
Yeah.
Everybody was excited because, you know, BEE for most companies, unfortunately, is a grudge purchase. However, all that happened was that on the 4th of November, the Minister of Finance put out regulations, the procurement regulations, and all that happened was that when companies now submit tenders, it's not a mandatory requirement to submit a BEE certificate. However, you now have specific goals that you have to work towards. Yeah. So in your tender documents, you'll have things like where the tender will ask for black ownership.
Yes.
Or they'll ask for exempt micro-enterprise or designated group or 51% black female owned. So all that happened was that there was a change in terms of the requirements in terms of a BEE certificate, and now you have specific goals that the tenders are asking for. Yeah. Having said that, you still need to submit the BEE certificate because the tender board is going to get that information from your BEE certificate. Yeah. So I believe that BEE is going to continue into the foreseeable future because how else is our country going to bring about economic transformation? It's a very, very important part in our system in order to allow companies to plan and you know, to upskill people, to bring in black ownership into their businesses. I believe it's the key to transformation taking place in our country.
Yeah. So you mentioned something about, you know, about what happened last year. With all of now the requirements changing a little bit, they'll need BEE certificates, sometimes affidavit, sometimes BEE certificate from accredited SANAS entity. Can you unpack that in terms of who does the BEE apply to? You know, if I am an SME, how does BEE apply to me? If I'm making between 10 and 50 million, the usual call, those are the QSEs and all of that, and EMEs. How does it apply to me? If I'm making over 50 to 100 million, now all of a sudden I become what they would call generic. How does that apply to me? Just unpack that for us.
Okay. So in terms of the BEE codes, there are 3 different levels.
Yes.
Okay. So the first level that you get is called an exempt micro enterprise. It's normally termed an EME. And those companies are anybody between 0 and 10 million turnover. And if you are in that category and you are a black-owned business, you are able to get something which we call a SWAN affidavit. Now, this is a free affidavit that you can fill out. The affidavit is on the DTI website. You just complete the affidavit, you get it commissioned, and that will serve as a BEE certificate, and there's no costs involved. The second category is your qualifying small enterprise. These are what we call QSEs. So these are companies anywhere between 10 million and 50 million revenue. Here again, you can also get a SWAN affidavit with your black-owned companies. And then your last category is your companies that are over 50 million.
Yep.
So these are what you call your generics. And this is where a lot of planning is required because these companies are not allowed to get SWAN affidavits. They have to get a SANAS accredited certificate. In other words, they have to go to a SANAS accredited agency and we have to rate them on all of their elements. We have to score them and then we produce their BEE certificate. So that's how the categories work and that's how we...
That's where the scorecard really now comes into place in terms of now all of a sudden you've got a scorecard that you need to meet. Can you just re-emphasize again in terms of the scorecard? What do you have on the scorecard? What do you have,
so, you know, in terms of planning, your exempt micro enterprises and your QSCs that are black owned, you're going to do your affidavit and you're okay. Yeah. But when it comes to a generic company, that's where the issue arises. So these are your companies above 50 million. And unfortunately, you cannot wait until the end of your financial year to then say, I now need a BE certificate and I'm going to get it. Because I can tell you, you're going to be non-compliant.
You need to plan ahead.
You have to start planning right at the beginning. So there's a term in the BE codes called your measurement period. That's actually is your financial period. So it's your financial year end. Say you have a February year end. So it's from 1st of March to February. You would have to start planning right at the beginning, 1st of March. You would plan your BE. And the reason why I'm saying it's so important, it's crucial that you do your planning upfront, is because there are certain targets in the BE codes that you need to meet as a company. For example, on socioeconomic development, you have to spend 5% of your net profit after tax. Okay?
Yeah.
Now, most companies don't know this, they don't understand this, and they've completed their year end, and then they come after year end and they say, I want to do my BE, but they haven't spent. So now they get 0 on socioeconomic development.
Yeah.
Similarly, they haven't spent on the enterprise development, they haven't spent on supply development or skills development. So throughout the scorecard, they're scoring 0, and then they wonder, but Priscilla, I'm a Black-owned business and I should be a level 1.
Yep.
And why am I not a level 1?
Yeah.
But they lack the understanding that the BE scorecard is actually made up of various elements. And you have to meet the targets on all of the elements if you want to maintain or attain a level 1.
Yeah.
That's the most important message.
What are the consequences if you're running a business and you are not on level 1, you're on level 8? Because at the end of the day, so what? I'm on level 5, so what? I'm on level 1, so what? I'm on level 8, so what?
So the consequences of not having a good level, unfortunately, is that other businesses would not want to do business with you. And the reason why I'm saying this is because, let's take company A. On their scorecard, there's an element called preferential procurement.
Correct.
And if they are doing business with you and you are a supplier to them, they'd want your company to be a level 1, because if they put your company on their scorecard as a level 1, they can claim 135% of their spend with you. What does that mean? That means they are getting more points on their scorecard. And all companies are trying to get the maximum points at the least spend. So if they're having to spend money with their suppliers anyway, and you're a level 1, they're obviously scoring more points. So what's happening in the market at the moment is that businesses are currently looking to spend money with compliant suppliers, i.e. anybody that has a level 4, 3, 2, and 1. Because if you're a level 4, you can claim your spend at 100% on your procurement scorecard. Level 3, it's 110%, level 2, 125%, and obviously a level 1 is at 135%. And that's where you're maximizing your points. So that's one of the biggest reasons why all businesses and all companies should want to have a BE certificate. In addition to that, you'll see all of the tenders that come out.
Yep.
They give specific goals on the tenders. And those goals are centered around the BE certificate. And they specifically ask for Black-owned businesses, the exempt micro enterprises, or your QACs, or designated groups.
Yeah.
So you have to have your BE certificate. In fact, on the tender submissions, that is one of the requirements there, is that you have to give them your BE certificate. Yeah. And if you don't, they're not allowed to disqualify you, but you're not going to score the points
low.
That you should be scoring on the tender, because very often on a tender it's either 10 or, depending, it's 10 points or 20 points if you have your specific goals in place. So you're not going to get those points, so you're already starting on a back foot on that tender process. So that's very important.
That's quite fascinating, because it's not only doing business with government that you need the BE certificate, but even if you're doing business with other businesses, they still require that, because at the end of the day now there's that value they're also getting from you.
Correct.
As well. So what are some of the successful case studies that we have in South Africa of entities that would have implemented BEE up to their best advantage, and that has led to a proper economic transformation? Do we have that? Because look, the BE also has its connotations, right? There's a good and then there's a bad, right? Part of the sector will say we don't want BE. However, it is a policy that government is implementing. Now, what are some of the success stories that you can share with the audience that can say, look, there are a number of transactions that have been done on BE and have resulted on ABCD?
There are numerous companies that I've worked with where when they started off, they'd start off at like a level 8 or 7 and then they move up the ladder. But that's where planning is very, very crucial. So we come in there and we say, okay, depending on whether we're doing the BE consulting or the verification. If we're doing the BE consulting, we can assist companies to move them from a level 8 to a level 1. And then you see them going through this journey. And I have many companies where we've done this, where we've actually moved them from the level 8 right up to the level 1. And I've seen massive growth in these companies. And some of the strategies that they've employed, it's not all about spending money on BEE. So there's various strategies, and I'll very quickly run through them. There's one thing on the BE scorecard where you have skills development. So a company can do learnerships or apprenticeships or internships. Yep. Now, if you do those kind of things, you can score on skills development on 3 areas on the scorecard. So you can take that amount into your skills spend. You can also take that into your head count. Okay, and then there's also 5 bonus points in terms of learnerships, in terms of your learnerships. Yeah. So if a company has somebody, an unemployed person on a learnership, and they absorb that person at the end of the learnership, depending on the target, if they've met the target, they can earn 5 bonus points on their scorecard, and that is a lot of points to earn. Yeah. And then over and above, in addition to all of that, a company that has learnerships, internships, or apprenticeships, they can take the total cost of the salary of the person into their skills spend. And sometimes if you use it very, very intelligently, it becomes a big amount. So if you're using a high salaried person, for example, on a learnership, like for example, if they're on a 500,000 package, you can take the whole 500,000 as part of your skill spend. The BE codes does allow that. So what I find is a lot of companies say, okay, I need to spend 6% of my payroll bill on skills development. I'm never going to be able to spend $1 million on skills, and BE is not for me, forget it. Yeah. Doesn't have to be looked like that. Yeah. There are ways, there are strategies that you can implement to get to that 1 million by not actually spending money, because you're going to spend the salary cost anyway. So these are the way. And remember, at the same time, you're upskilling people, because at the end of the learnership, they are going to reach a qualification. So it's a 12-month course, and they will reach a qualification at the end of it. Yeah. So there's various strategies that you can implement. Also, like on enterprise development and supply development, you don't necessarily always have to be giving out money or grants. There's a matrix on enterprise and supply development and various strategies that you can employ. So you can give a company an interest-free loan, and that loan can be taken into account as part of your spend, and we can award points for that. You just need to be careful with loans. There are specific, like the loan can only be taken at 70%. Things like that. It's also prorated if it wasn't given for the full year. So there are different, things on the scorecard that you can implement, and different strategies.
That leads me to another question that I find it very important is, look, how do companies monitor their performance around BEE? Because remember, yes, it can be transactional, or else it can have that economic transformation, as you have just spoken about, in terms of skills. They're training people, they're changing the country. So what are the metrics or the key performance indicators that a business uses to ensure that they can track their progress on the BEE?
So in terms of BEE, there's basically 5 elements to the scorecard. Yeah. A lot of companies use software. There is software out there. Some other companies, they get in consultants to assist them, because unfortunately, if you're not working in the BEE space, every day like I do, it's very difficult to come to terms with the codes because it can get very technical. So I'll quickly run through the elements. So there's ownership on the scorecard. So companies should be looking at getting in Black ownership. You need 26% Black ownership on your business in order to score points. There's various categories under the ownership, how you score, and that's very technical. There's also management control on the scorecard. So that looks at how, your whole structure, your personnel that you're employing. And that's based on demographics of the country. And every year it changes because we look at the economically active population, what we call the EAP targets, and we score management control based on that. We also look at the top structure, your top management structure. So your board, your council, your executive management. Then the next element is your skills development. There again, everything is based on targets. It's based basically on your livable amount, which is like your payroll figure. And if you're spending on skills development, like I said, you can do your learnerships, internships, apprenticeships, spend on Black people. Here again, skills development is based on your economically active population, your demographics. Okay, so you need to take your skills development spend into account. And then you have the next element, which is called your ESD, Enterprise and Supply Development. Now, these are made up of 3 areas. It's your procurement. Now, in this area, all you need to do as a company, you need to get all the BE certificates for your suppliers. So you're not spending any money. You just need to diligently get BE certificates from all your suppliers. And as a strategic decision in your company, you can make a decision to say, I will only deal with people that have BE certificates. And I want to only deal with people that have BE certificates from a level 4 upwards. So 4, 3, 2, 1. That's why the level now matters. That's why the levels matter. And that's why you're ensuring then when you're getting to do your procurement score, you're making sure you're scoring full points on procurement because you're not spending any money on that element. All you're doing is making sure that you have all the BE certificates for your suppliers and you're only dealing with compliant suppliers. Okay. And then the other one is your enterprise development. Now here you need to spend money with small Black owned businesses. Now this is very important because this is important for our SMMEs. They need to understand as an SMME, there are big businesses out there that will want to do business with SMMEs. They have to do business in order to score on their BE scorecard. So as an SMME, you need to tap into that market and say, where can I find these big businesses? There are lots out there that are looking for small businesses to, to partner with or to do something with. They can offer them a grant or they can go into the small business and say, what is it that you need? Do you need mentoring, training? You need an interest-free loan, cash flow requirements? There's a whole host of things that, that can be done. And then the other one is your supplier development. Here, the only difference with enterprise and supplier development is that the supplier development must be a supplier to the big business. So, if you're a supplier, you can approach your big business and say, okay, can you assist me with this and that or whatever, and it's going to assist on your BE scorecard. And, 9 out of 10 times it may happen or it may not. We don't know. And then the last element is your socioeconomic development. Remember, socio-economic development, there's 2 words here, social economic. So it has to have a revenue generating impact on our economy. Socioeconomic development in terms of the BE codes is not your CSI. It's not your corporate social investment. There must be, for example, if you pay a child's school fees, that is proper socioeconomic development because here the child, the school fees you're paying, maybe you're paying a bursary to a tertiary education, the child is going to educate themselves and then they're going to work and add back taxes into our economy. That is what socioeconomic development is all about. So that's basically the elements on the scorecard.
That was well detailed. Because now each and everyone will understand what the scorecard is about. Because I know it gets technical. As you said, it can get technical as much as you can. Now, with all of those elements, you mentioned something that is very important around the SMEs on the ESD, all right, enterprise and supplier development. That as an SME owner, you can approach a company and say, as part of your requirements, you need to spend on small businesses, all right? there's a certain percentage they need to spend of their net profit after tax. I would love to be part of that. Now, how can you as a CA difference maker assist those businesses to identify those opportunities, identify companies that they can go to and say, can you enroll me on your program? How do you assist that as a CA?
Okay, so there are a lot of incubation projects and incubators out there where they actually their core function is to take on these SMMEs. So they take them on and then they partner them with big businesses. There's many out there. You just need, as a small business, you need to tap into these markets. There's a lot of CAs out there that are actually, I know personally of a lot of CAs that are personally involved in these incubation projects. Whereby they take on these SMMEs and then they partner them with these big businesses and say, okay, what is it that you need? You need IT skills. So we are an incubation hub with IT, and then we develop you, we hold your hand, and we grow you in that space. Depends in which area you are working in. So as CAs, I think this is the space we can play in, where we can take on your SMMEs, hold their hand, partner them with the big businesses, and then you have a good product at the end of the day.
So for an SME out there, it's important that you look out for a CA. There are CAs that will lead you to the right channels, right?
It's very, very important. There are a lot of CAs at the moment that are running with these incubation projects, and they will be able to assist you in that regard.
So what are some of the tips, and insights that you like to share about, the BE development space currently, that you'd want someone who's running a small businesses to know, or even someone who's running a generic company that now needs to complete the full scorecard? What are the tips that you can share with them?
So from my experience, sometimes I get into a company and the company says to me, Priscilla, I have to be a level 1. I'm going to be a level 1. I've done all the work. I've done all the groundwork. And then we start scoring them, and then we realize, we come to skills development and we say, where's your approved workplace skills plan? And they're unable to give that to us. And they say, oops, I was not aware of that. Now, as a big business, or even your smaller business, you need to understand, if your payroll bill is above 500,000 per annum, in terms of the Skills Development Levies Act, you have to be submitting a workplace skills plan, an annual training report, and a pivotal report to your SAICA. And in terms of the BE codes, we as verification agency, if we do not receive your approved workplace skills plan, annual training report, and pivotal report, we have to score you 0 on skills.
So you've lost.
So I have a company that have spent millions on skills and thinking they're going to get a score like 25 points, full points on skills.
Correct.
But the most crucial document, which is your approved workplace skills plan,
WSP.
they haven't done that. So it's so sad, because now we have to score you 0, and there's nothing you can do, because your workplace skills plan, it closes April every year. After that, you can't submit. So timelines are very important in BE. You have to make sure you do your submissions on time, you adhere to the legislation out there, and then you're doing what is required in terms of the BE codes. So that's one example in terms of skills. Then on the other side, on management control, we want to score you on management control, and that's just based on your staff. You don't need to spend anything. And then we ask them, okay, have you submitted your employment equity to Department of Labor, like your EA2 and your EA4 reports? And then they say, oops,
we didn't know. We
didn't know. We forgot. And remember, that closes on the 15th of January every single year. It opens in September, closes in January. And if you haven't submitted there again, we have to score you 0. So, so I think the biggest tip that I can give to all companies out there would be is that planning is critical. It's crucial. You have to plan exactly what is it you want, what level do you want, and then you have to map out a plan as to how you going to get there. What are the pillars you are going to score in, or that you want to score in, and how you're going to get there. If you say, I want full points on procurement or on skills development, then you have to know these are the prerequisites in terms of the BE codes. I have to meet those prerequisites, and these are the spends I have to do in order to score the full points.
Yeah.
And you have to do that upfront at the beginning of your financial year, not after.
What is important, what I'm picking up from you is that if you are running a business, you can't say you don't know, right? You need to be informed. You need to get trusted business advisors that will advise you in advance, because at the end of the day, you might lose a huge business transaction because you're not on level 3, you're on level 7. And the reason for you that you're on level 7 is not because you don't qualify. It's just a matter of you didn't plan accordingly from the beginning. You didn't reach out to a CA, to an expert that understand BE. Now, that leads me to another point in terms of, you said you will come as a BEE verification company. You audit the company, then you give them the scorecard at the end. But what happens if I'm running a business and I don't agree with your findings, you as a BE verification agency? What is my next step now as a business owner? Where can I raise my issues at if I feel that this verification agency is not scoring me on my skills plan because they say I didn't submit ABCD? However, these are the reasons. However, they've scored me 0. Now my BE scorecard is way lower than. What are the options that are out there for companies?
Okay. So in terms of SANAS accredited agencies, we are all required to follow SANAS R4703. In terms of that legislation, there is an appeals process.
Okay.
So every single business, if you've been issued with a BE scorecard, you then, and you're unhappy with it, there is a process where you can appeal your score.
Okay.
So you are given, and different verification agencies will have different processes, but they will make it known to you in their service level agreement that there is an appeals process. You can appeal your scorecard. You're given 7 days or 10 days to do that. And then when a company then appeals their score, the verification agency has to then relook at their score.
Okay.
And it's re-looked at by different people, not the people that were working on the BE scorecard.
Yes.
So it's a totally different team that will look at the scores and will say, okay, did we actually score this client correctly? And then they will come up with, their own reasoning as to why they did score correctly or not. And they have to provide that then to the client. And if the client is still unhappy, obviously then they would go to SANAS because all the agencies are regulated by SANAS. So
that's good, because what it does now, it also provides that this is not only just a tick box exercise, then that's it. It's a formal process that you can always debate or justify as much as you can, unless then the facts, if the facts are there, there's nothing you can do. So in terms of, are there any new changes in the regulations that you're aware of, or that you want some of the business owners to be aware of out there?
So I think the biggest change that's coming up, and I want the transport sector owners to be aware of this, is that on the 1st of December 2023, the transport sector codes will be gazetted. Now, we've been waiting for these codes since the amended codes came out, which was from 2013. So
long time ago.
It's a very long time ago. And every time we have a meeting, the question comes up, when is the transport sector codes going to be gazetted? So finally, it is going to be gazetted, and implementation will have to be, will take place next year, March. So for all those transport companies out there, you need to be aware of this, because you need to start planning, because the codes are going to be aligned with the amended codes. i.e., there's going to be major differences in terms of the targets, in terms of what you need to achieve in terms of the BE code. So you need to be aware of all of that. Especially if you have a February year end. So if you have February 2024, you needed to have started planning already to get through those codes. I think that's the major thing that I'd like to say. The other big thing that has been out there in the market is the change with the BE procurement that I've spoken about.
Absolutely.
Whereby now it's no more on your tenders, they're just going to look at your BE certificate and give you the points. So, if you were level 1, you'll get 10 or 20 points. Now there's specific goals on the tender. So they'd want, a specific tender would say, I want black ownership, 100%. or I want designated group or disabled people. So there's specific goals.
I've noticed they've started to do that. Yeah.
Yes, so all of the tenders now that have come out have that already, because this was gazetted on the 4th of November 2022.
Yeah.
So it's come out already on all of the tenders where there's specific goals. And you have to claim your goals on the tender based on your BE certificate. So you submit your BE certificate in the tender and you'll claim and you'll say, I'm 100% Black female owned, therefore I get the full points. And that's how that works.
Yeah.
And then the last one is with the employment equity reporting. So what has happened in that market is that a lot of companies now think that they don't have to submit their EE reporting to Department of Labor. That is incorrect. It has not been legislated as yet, right? So please remember this. All companies that are supposed to submit their EE reports to Department of Labor still have to do so. You have until the 15th of January to do that. Remember, if you have more than 50 staff, or if you meet the turnover thresholds, you have to report to Department of Labor, and you still have to do that. So I often get calls from all the companies saying, okay, the legislation has changed, I don't have to submit. That is incorrect. You have to still submit because that legislation has not been gazetted as yet. And remember what I said, if you don't show us your employment equity reporting when we come to verify you, you score 0 on management control. So please don't get caught out with that one.
Absolutely. Priscilla, you've shared some very good nuggets. I wish you can spend more time really discussing this topic. I do believe that we're going to call you again to really dive deeper. But before I let you go, I'm sure there will be people that are listening to you and they're going to be like, okay, who is Priscilla? Just tell us briefly about your business and how you can support SMEs that have challenges around BEE.
Okay, so I started my business, BBBEE Verification Agency, in 2008. And I can really relate to SMMEs because when I started my business, it was just Priscilla, myself. And I started with nothing, no clients, no brand, no track record, absolutely nothing. And I had no clients. Okay. And
what a risk. What a risk you took.
A very big risk. And I had to get SANAS accredited with no clients. And in order to get accredited with SANAS, you have to show them that you are doing work with some clients.
Some files and all of that.
You have to have your files. They have to witness you doing a site visit. And it was very, very tough, very difficult because nobody wants to give you their work because you're a no-name brand. So I can relate to the SMMEs. But it's all about determination, perseverance, hard work, hard work. That's all I can say. So I started off right at the beginning and then I started growing. And the way I grew was quick turnaround times on my clients. So, I was a people's person. So I would be very involved with my clients myself, and I still am. So I get very involved with my clients. And then I think the most important message that I want to say out there to the SMMEs is that it's all about competence. You don't have a rule book where you say, okay, to be a successful business, these are the 10 tips, because then everybody will be a successful business. For me, it's all about competence. If you're highly skilled and you're competent at what you do, people would want to do work with you. They'd want to continue working with you. They'd then tell 10 other people about you, and then you're going to get more business. And that is how my business grew. It was all word of mouth. It was from one business to the next, and that's how I grew my business.
Priscilla, you shared a number of important points that I'm sure most of our audience will benefit from it. And some of them will be looking for you. Can you please briefly tell us about your business and what are you offering to the SMEs and how you can help them out there in the market?
So we at AAA, our core function is to do BE scorecards. So we understand the codes very clearly, the technical part of them. So when we go into a company, we can advise and guide them as far as BE is concerned. So we break down every single element. The first thing we would do is say, okay, what level would you like to be at? And then we take each element and we work them through the process and we'd say, okay, on ownership, what is it you want to do, or how do you want to achieve the score that you want to achieve. We can do A, B, C, so forth. And we take each element: management control, skills development. A lot of the times the companies don't have the money to spend. So we would look at innovative ways of how you can actually go about getting the points you want to achieve without actually spending the money. Also with BBBEE, it's very process driven, and documents, a lot of documents are required. So we assist them in terms of formulating their documents. For example, with enterprise and supplier development, you need an agreement in place. And the companies say, what is this? So we would assist them with putting an agreement in place for enterprise development or supplier development, because without that, they're scoring 0. So in terms of the documentation, we'll guide them along the process and say to them, okay, these are the 5 documents you need. These are the templates, or this is how you go about doing it. And then we'll guide them through that process and say,
you're involved.
Very, very involved. Yeah. It's very process and document orientated. You have to have your documents in place if you want to score the points. It's not just about giving the money. You may give the donation of 100,000, but if you didn't get the documents in place, you're scoring 0. So that's where AAA would come in and guide them through the process and streamline the process so that it doesn't become like a whole mammoth task for companies, out there.
Yeah. Whew, that was a masterclass. Priscilla, thank you so much. Your time is much valuable here, and I can promise you that we will invite you again on the next episode that we are going to be having as SAICA Biz Impact Podcast Show. We've come to an end of our show, and the number of key takeaway points that we can take from this. However, as an SME, you can capitalize on BBBEE. She has told you that, for instance, there's ESD programs that are out there. You can be a supplier into a company. You just need to talk to the right people. You just need to read. You just need to research. The number of companies that are looking for you out there in terms of their spending, they want to spend, they just can't find you. So you have to take that initiative, be visible. I hope you have learned some lessons, and I hope you're going to implement all of those tips that have been shared for you going forward. Let us know what you thought of this episode, and don't forget to follow the SAICA page on LinkedIn, Twitter, and Instagram. Just spread the word, share the content with all the relevant parties that might learn something from this podcast. Subscribe and like our page as well on Twitter, YouTube as well. So that's it from me, Luncedo Mthwendwe. See you on the next one.
The SAICA Biz Impact Podcast is proudly brought to you by SAICA, committed to growing impactful businesses in collaboration with our SAICA accredited practitioners. Don't forget to subscribe to our podcast and visit our website for more valuable resources.